All right, Irvin. So,
Yes, sir.
um, last class, one of the things that there are quite a number of themes that we got to, but one thing that I'm really trying to do in this class always is just give people the experience of somebody who I think has somewhat of a unique experience, which is, of course, why people know who you are, because you have a very unique experience. Although I want to add, there are a lot of other people who are incarcerated who are hungry for education, and man, it could be here. They're not here, but you're not so well, you're very unique, and you're not so unique. You know what I mean? That I don't want people to think like, oh my God, this Irvin he's the only person like him who could sit up here and talk in the way that he does, right? I mean, you are, but man, there's like...
No, I am not, Sam.
Okay.
There are thousands of individuals, men and women, boys and girls, exactly like me. The same kind of hunger, same kind of experiences that I went through that could be sitting here and telling a tale, telling a story, telling about the experiences that could impact the lives of any and everybody in here.
Because so often when we only hear the stories of the recidivism, the people who get incarcerated and they're back in prison, and they get out on the streets and they're back in prison. But what we don't hear, and while that's true, that the majority of people, that a large number of people they do one spin around, you know what I mean? But the fact is, there are a lot of people who don't go back. We
True.
learn a lesson.
Yes.
Okay.
They exist.
You got to hold the mic really close. I'm
Okay.
being told. All right, so Irvin, I want you. So one thing that was interesting about Joe, one thing he didn't say last week, he didn't tell any of the stories that he told me, and we talked about, and he came over, we had dinner together and told Lori, and he has so many stories about him standing up to other police and being like, I will not tolerate that behavior. And he just gave the story of this one cop who was given, what's up, Cora, was given tickets out to people with tinted windows. And he was kind of and he got back to the precinct, and Joe's like, he gets in his car and he has tinted windows. And Joe's like, listen, man, if I ever see you give a ticket, ever, somebody with tinted windows, I'm going to wait outside this parking lot, and the moment you drive your car off this parking lot, I'm giving you a ticket. If I ever see that again, man. Like stuff like that, like just stuff, right? Anyway, you have a story, and so this is about experiences matter. And you have a story about one of your very first run-ins with the police, and how that shaped you. And we got a couple different segments today, so we're gonna take just a little bit here. I just feel like it'd be really good, and I said this when I was talking to Joe, like, Irvin's got some stories about racist police, right? But you got that story that's so heartbreaking, and I think that people also need to hear stories like that. And so if you could tell that. You were, how old? 12?
Sure. I was 12 the day before it happened. I was 13 on this particular day because it was my 13th birthday. Now, in my community, I don't know if this happens in any other communities, but in my community, when you turn 13 as a boy, it's a coming of age kind of experience, rites of passage. Very important. It was the first birthday party I had ever had in my life when I turned 13. I was waiting for that. And I had my party. I had a 13th birthday party, invited my friends, people from the neighborhood, and we had cake and ice cream and balloons, and they sang happy birthday, and I was I was overjoyed. A little boy, I was overjoyed. I had to hold it in because I was a boy. And boys were taught or socialized that we don't show emotions like unnecessarily. So I held it in. But oh, I was floating. And my father, he approached me with an envelope. He said, "Here, boy." Father was monosyllabic. He didn't speak many words, but when he did, it was important. And I grabbed what he gave me, the envelope, and opened it up, and it was a card. All it had in, "Love, Daddy." And I pulled one of the flaps back, and I saw something. I said, "Oh, my Lord." It was a $20 bill. Now, I know for you guys at this stage of your life, or even when you were 13, $20, what the? But this was in 1959, probably before your mothers and fathers, maybe even some of your grandparents were born. And I was turning 13 in 1959, and a $20 bill was enormous. Most money I had ever had in my entire life, a $20 bill. I stopped and looked at my father. He smiled and said, "That's for you, boy." I grabbed him, hugged him, said, "Thanks, Daddy." And I grabbed it, put it back in the card, folded the envelope, put it in my back pocket of my pants, which had a button on the back flap. I put it in there securely, tightened that button, closed it, and commenced with the rest of my party, which was wonderful. Now, some of my friends and I, maybe 8 or 9 of us, guys my age, we were going out to the park later on that day. The park lay maybe 8 or 9 blocks away from my house, which is about a mile and a bit. So we were going to the park, and they had no idea that I had this kind of money. I said this kind of money because I was going to treat everybody. Ice cream, sodas, pretzels. We were going to have a ball. And this is all I had in my mind. I couldn't wait to see their faces when I told everybody to come up, and I started buying stuff. So after the party, we said, let's get on out. Let's go here to the park. So we started walking. We had gotten maybe halfway, about 4 blocks, and we were walking on, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Philadelphia. It was Diamond Street. It's nice, wide street, very spacious, tree line. And we were walking and playing, joking with each other and running, some running and jumping. And I was just walking with a smile on my face because I knew at the end of this what it was going to be like. I said, oh. And then a cop car pulls up. Hey, boys, stop right there. We stopped. And he came over. He said, get against the wall. But 8 or 9 of us, we were standing against the wall like this. I had no idea what was going to take place. He said, spread your legs, put your hands on the wall. And we had seen it done. So we adopted the pose. And it was 2 of them. They went down the line and said, where you boys going? What you doing? Where you coming from? The whole gamut. And patting everyone down. I was the last one. When they got over here, I had my hands on the wall like this. He patted me down. He said, you don't have anything on? I said, no, sir, I don't. And he went to my back pocket and he said, what's that? I said, no, that ain't nothing. That's just, and he said, oh, turn around. And I felt him unbutton the button, go into my pocket, pull out the envelope. I just turned around. I said, that's my money for my dad. And he said, shut up, turn around. And I saw him, okay, and then close it back, put it back in my pocket. I said, oh. He moved out. I said, all right, now y'all get on out of here. Go ahead. And we started, I took 2 steps and stopped. My hand was straight to my pocket, of course. The button was still unbuttoned. I pulled the envelope out. As I was walking, I was doing like this. And I opened it and pulled my card out. The only thing in there was the card. I turned around and I looked at him, and he was looking at me with that look that let me know. I said, give me my money. He said, pardon my language, young folks, we said, get the fuck out of here, nigga. I said, give me my money. That's my birthday money. I'm 13 years old. My world, for that exact moment, was changed. I said, this is a police officer. You're supposed to take care of us, supposed to protect us. I said, you stole my money. And I'm looking at him dead in the eyes, and it was obvious. He looked at me and said, I said, get the F out of here. I said, I'm going to tell my father. And they got in the car and said, I don't care who you tell, nigga. They got in the car and they drove away. And I didn't know how to process this. You know, it's like walking through a portal into a different dimension. You know, it's not your world anymore. And everything that I thought about life changed at that moment. I kid you not. Everything that I thought about life changed at that moment. And I changed. I changed. At that moment, I became a different human being. I became a different Irvin. Well, that was that experience. It took me years and years and years before I was able to get over the perception that all police were like this, that all white people were like this. It took me years, but I did. I got to the point where I realized that this was a bad cop. This was a bad human being. And not all cops, not all human beings were like this, because I had met some angels and some saints after that. Even police officers and correctional officers and guards, because I would not have been able to make it through that experience that I did of 52 years in the penitentiary if I did not have other folk that were helping me navigate that system. So today, at my age, I no longer feel the way I felt that particular moment when I was 13 years old and the police had robbed me and stole my money. I don't feel that way, but at that moment, that was one of the deepest and most significant traumas that I can remember in my life. And part of it stays with me even today.
Oh, you were a little kid. You were a boy. I mean, you were going from the boy to a man, but you were still a boy.
Yes.
Not
yes.
a man.
I was still nowhere near a man. I was still a boy.
You were a boy.
Still a boy. Still crying. You know, still those kinds of things. Calling for my daddy.
Yeah. Man. You know, that's the thing. You know, when I first heard that story, I don't remember when you told that story. I don't remember if you was after you got out or at some point Lori and I were visiting you, but you know, these are the kinds of stories that people have, that people walk around with, that we don't know about. And so sometimes, you know, people have opinions or thoughts or feelings about things that are really negative, you know, even discriminatory or hate-filled or whatever, but sometimes we don't know where they come from. And, you know, it's like, damn. But one of the things, can you go to the next slide, bro? I was thinking about this. If you look at the 100,000 people that could fit in that stadium, if you multiply that times 10, that's how many sworn law enforcement officers there are in the U.S. Some are bad. Some are good. Yes. Some are angels. Some are devils, and most are somewhere in between, just like the rest of society. And but to make these generalizations that a lot of people do just don't make sense, man. So it's like you, right? You said you met so many people. Anyway, listen, man. For that young 13-year-old Irvin, man, I feel that. I feel that. Every time you tell that story, man, I feel that.
Well, thank you, sir. You're an example of what I mean by everyone is not on that side.
Yeah.
I met you and Lori 20, 25 years ago. And from that moment, it's what caused me to be here today. It what literally and caused me to be standing or sitting here today when I met them. That they put this gem of a seed in my idea that I could come home and come here to State College and work with them, work with the people at Penn State University, even become a student and continue on in getting my degree here. And it crystallized the idea for me that there are people like that everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Dude, thanks, man. A hug for the 13-year-old Irvin.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. All righty. All right, gentlemen. Maybe you had to have that experience so you could just tell the story. You can actually sit on the table. Yeah, it'll be easier. Damn, man. Okay. So, you remember these two gentlemen here from last class, and I thought Beck and Lewis, and I thought I'd just bring you up again to ask you a couple questions. So first off, you guys both want to be in law enforcement. So what did you take away from what Joe said the other day? What's something that he said that kind of left you thinking?
He said a lot of stuff that I've been hearing my whole life.
Yeah, about cops.
Yeah.
What in particular? Tell us a couple of those.
If you don't talk about how you're feeling, it's just gonna get worse. You're gonna have to put yourself in situations that you don't know how you're gonna react unless you're in that situation.
Yeah. How was it? How was that to hear him be so vulnerable? How was that for you?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good for you yourself?
I think it's good for everybody.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of people like him, right? A lot of police like that. A lot of COs like that, right? Huh. That's not all Shawshank Redemption. And Bro, Lewis, how about you?
What I took away?
Yeah, what did he say that kind of left you?
Is this on?
Yeah.
Is it on?
There you go.
Hello?
Wait, hang on. Hey, hang on.
What I took away was how vulnerable he was, what he said, and how anything can happen at any moment. He wasn't even called to he didn't get called to the place where he shot. He just walked up and he got ran over. Anything can happen at any time when you're a police officer, and especially just talking about your feelings. That was something he really talked about, and not a lot of police officers do. So
Yeah, I have the idea that I've done a lot of work with police, and small sessions, 10 people, 20 people, so on. And there have been quite a number of times, man, when cops have cried, really in front of other cops, right? Just man, feeling the intensity, right? And for me, first off, it just has value. Any job, anybody who's willing to be vulnerable, especially men, just has such value. Well, how about Irvin's story? What do you take from that?
They're definitely what I took from that is there are always going to be bad cops. There's always there's nothing you can do, especially with us. Our training isn't that good. We only stay in 6 months, I think the training is, and the requirements keep going down and down and down. So we're letting worse people come in.
No, hang on. They used to be really low, These cops that did that to Irvin, they didn't go to college.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like we're kind of going back to that now because there's no one wants.
Not back to that, but we're starting to.
Yeah, I understand. That's true. But like,
you know why though?
Because no one wants to be a police officer.
Yeah, you know why? Because
they're under so much scrutiny all the time.
Yeah, like listen, man. After George, so I was working with these cops, and this old timer, man. He was like he was an old timer, but he was one of these big, like, crew cut old timers, you know? And he just broke down, man. He's like, my kids used to be proud to say that their father was a police officer, and my kids don't even say that anymore. They won't even tell their friends that I'm a police officer. They hide it from everybody, and I tell them, yeah, it's fine, you can hide it. But imagine that, man. Like, you go from this job when you're supposed to be this person that, like Irvin said, I looked up to as a kid, and then you go to this hate. Like, people would wear this, Anyway, all right, so.
Well, I also appreciate how we wear body cameras now. Like, I don't think any of that would fly anymore.
No.
Like, I think we need to hold cops accountable 100%. And, I don't know, I think sometimes cops are just, like, aggressive and rude for no reason, and it really shows because they like encounter the public every single day. So
yeah, sometimes there's look. Sometimes there's Can I tell you a story? Cop who almost beat the shit out of somebody, but he stopped himself, and he almost did. He walked me through exactly how close he was to really beating the shit out of someone for no reason whatsoever, except the person was just kind of giving him a hard time. And then he told me what happened. And what happened was he went out on a call. And I'm just telling this story because it's just like, this is the complexity of it, right? He went out on a call. And some guy had thrown his child, down the stairs. Child was 1.5 years. And the cop had to pick the child up and get the child to an ambulance. And the child had broken bone. The child was like really, because the guy I think had kicked the child first and then kicked him down the stairs. And the guy had just like no remorse. He was just effed up, as effed up as you could imagine. And the cop had to hold himself together to be, to do what he had to do to arrest this guy. Meanwhile, the cop has a 1.5-year-old at home, leaves, is going to get time off, going to get a day off, because when you go through, in his particular department, when you have something like that, goes home, or on his way back to the station house, and then has this encounter with somebody, and this person starts giving him a really hard time. And the guy was like, I don't have a minute. I don't have time for this, man. And and a lot of cops are just jerks, like you say. They're just jerks, man, and they need to be off the force. And this is the complicated thing. And then it becomes like the 10 stadiums, Beaver stadiums. You can't say all cops or all professors or all whatever, all students, all frat guys, because we know frat guys. Are you guys in a frat by chance? I am. Yeah. You are? You know what they say about frat? I think we're nice guys. Yeah, you think you're nice guys, but a lot of people think you're a-holes, right? Yeah. No, go ahead. What's that?
I said it's all perspective.
Yeah, but whatever. But people make these generalizations, and so like, okay. So here, the other. What's that? Yeah.
So I was also in the conversation after class with our man, the policeman, and one of the things that I really didn't know that I realized from the talk we had was the perspective that police have that is different from average person or military. That if you're familiar with the military, you are familiar with the mindset of you just have to do what you're ordered to do. It's you have to prioritize a group first rather than yourself. But the policeman, you are trained to take care of yourself first more than anything, because ultimately when you're on the scene in front of a criminal who is a dangerous threat, ultimately what matters is your own life and your potential family that you have to sustain for, rather than you and your partner and potential and getting that criminal caught. So it is you first, not the group. So that sort of mentality is the kind of thing that people really like gloss over, that I personally gloss over, and I think it's worth mentioning before we move on.
As your military service. Hey, let me show you some data. Can you go to the next slide? So this shows the importance of the two of you, like what you do. So this was from a Gallup poll, talking to people during my most recent interaction with the police. So these are just Americans in the U.S., right? 77%. You can see how that is, right? Now, 23% are saying it wasn't overall positive, which says, okay, what's that say? You know what I mean? Well, it's generally an encounter with the police isn't necessarily going to be positive at all. If you're having an encounter, unless you're, yeah. Okay. Next slide. So they asked, this one I was treated fairly. Everybody said 85 together. But people who they polled who were black said 71. I was treated fairly. Compared to white people, that's a 19% difference, man. Now, some of that is perception, right? Some of it's perception. If you perceive that you're going to be treated that way, then you're going to be treated that way. But also, when you see that number, like, how do you, as two white guys, like, what's that say? How do you, like,
I don't think it's right. I think a lot of it has to do with policy and over-policing in underprivileged areas.
or just not even underprivileged, but yeah.
And also, I feel like negative experiences with police stick in your head a lot longer than positive experiences do.
Yeah. So it's something you think about. Like the issue of race and discrimination and discriminatory behavior and so on. You're thinking about that.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. Same with you, bro? You're something you're thinking about, like discriminate. You as you're going to be a white cop, a white guy in law enforcement. You're thinking about differential treatment.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I don't know the exact statistics, but I feel like overwhelmingly, like the amount of police officers are white in this country. But I'm not sure on that, and I don't know. I think a lot in the South too. They like I don't know. They think they have like this predetermined notion of like who is a criminal and who's not a criminal, and it kind of stays in their head, and I guess that affects these numbers.
Well, yeah, I mean it's one thing, right? But it's interesting that you guys are thinking about that. I'm not gonna. It's just interesting you're thinking about that. That's all. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
I'm also curious on like I want to be the devil's advocate and ask like what do you guys think about only being 19% difference? Because conventionally we always talk about how black people are treated unevenly, and just from a colloquial standpoint, it almost sounds like every police interaction with black people are a mistreatment.
Yeah.
But statistics shows it's not really that big a difference. So I don't know like how you guys think about that.
Well, I also think it has to do with like black people only being 13% of the population, 14% of the population, and they have a lot more. I don't know how such a small percentage of people in this country keep having problems with the police. I think that shows you more than these numbers show you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the crime rate's higher among black Americans too.
I think that also has to do with the system more than it has to do with like anything else.
Dude, be careful. You're sounding like the guy that when you just said that right there, that's like the reason that the whole current administration would want to shut my class down, because you just talked about systemic inequality, and I'm not allowed to talk about that. So don't get me in trouble. All right. Hey, look at this next slide. This is so they asked, do police treat people like you? And this was just them asking black people fairly. So when their most recent interaction with police was positive, 91% said yes. But when it was negative, 41% said yes. Like that, this goes to what you guys just said, right? It's like people, it's like your experience is going to shape who you are and what you think about. It's like, damn, man. That's why everything you do, every interaction you have, has consequences when you're a cop. Every single one, man. That's a lot of pressure. Yeah, you take it day by day. But it's a lot of pressure. And I think this is kind of what Joe was saying, just the pressure. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be ready for it. Huh. All right, man. Gentlemen, thanks. That was good. I just wanted to have you back up for a hot minute. So, thanks, man. All right, you ready? We'll just do the two of you. Do we have a question from the stream, by the way? Oh, all right. Hey, Niche, if you can hear us. All right. All right, man. Hey, so we're going to talk a little bit about China. Is there a question? You got a stream question?
That was a very smooth transition.
Wait, why don't you guys just introduce yourselves first?
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I'm a freshman studying Earth Science and Policy.
Hi everyone, my name is Zihan. I'm the junior year.
What do you study?
Business psychology.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Irvin, hang on. Can you answer that question from GDC?
What was the biggest culture shock when I got out of prison?
Going to the Walmart Supercenter.
Well, that was one.
No, I know what it was. Can I answer the question for you?
What?
I got your question. You finally had a Big Mac that you've been wanting for 40, 50 years. You'd never had one. And you finally tasted one, and it tasted like...
I wanted 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Yeah.
And I'd wanted that for over 35, 40 years. When I had the opportunity, that's the first meal that I tasted. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Dude, there you go. That's the culture shock. You think if this thing's so big and so important, it must taste pretty good. All right, man. All right, we good? Okay, you can just blacken the screen while we... All right, y'all. So listen, what I'm noticing... hey, by the way, if there's another Chinese student from China, actually, who would want to join us up here, or Chinese American who would like to join us, feel free to come up, man. And if we get started in the conversation and you feel like you want to add something, feel free to just come down on the front and G will give you a microphone. All right? So you all, Chinese American, Chinese, okay? So the two of you you're speaking on behalf of 1.4 billion people, my friends, so don't mess up at all. You're not really on the hook in the same way. But can we go to our next slide? I want you to see these numbers here. And American attitudes toward China are pretty negative. And if we look at that starting about 2017, 2018 really, it starts to go up. And that's right about, the unfavorable starts to go up. And that's about the time that Trump's really going all in on China, you know. And then shortly after that, COVID starts, and, you know, you guys started COVID, and, you know, you're responsible for everything. So, point being, today, 4 out of 5 Americans have an unfavorable view of China and Chinese, right? And so I want to know, how is that for you? Like, that's not true here, by the way. The people in their 20s don't dislike you guys as much as people who are my age. People who are my age, like, we really hold a lot of negativity. But how is that for you? Have you thought of, did you know this, by the way?
No, I never know this before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good for you. All right, that's better that you don't know, but now you do. So, Sophie, did you know this?
Well, I am exposed to the news, so I do see the American side of things, but I don't really experience it in my day-to-day life.
So you don't, so for you don't experience it.
No.
So this is like all talk and who knows what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I'm also interacting with people my age more, so
yeah,
it's less.
so you don't have that. So have you ever experienced anti-Chinese? Like besides people making wait, you went to school, when did you come to the US?
When I was 3.
3? Okay. But you
Yeah.
you speak Cantonese and Mandarin.
Yeah, I returned to China a few years, like between 3 and 10.
Uh-huh.
So there was some exposure.
Mm-hmm. So you So you have a lot of opportunities here in the US. Did you get I would imagine you experienced just
Yeah.
stuff with other kids and things like that.
Yeah, actually there was some bullying on both sides.
Uh-huh.
When I was in 2nd grade, I went to China because my grandparents really wanted me to learn Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
And some of the Chinese kids actually bullied me for being from America
Yeah.
because I was sort of more Americanized at that state.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't say in America I was bullied for being Chinese, but there was some like cultural being ignorant and stuff kind of bullying rather
Uh-huh.
than actually, oh, I'm going to bully you just because you are Chinese.
I got you. Yeah. All right, I got that. Huh. First off, I think it's really interesting that always we talk so much about all the negativity, right? The discrimination, the bullying, the prejudice, all that. But it's like what I'm always talking about with the news. The news, the headlines, there's always murders and assaults and so on in the headlines because they're rare. Whatever's in the headlines is what is rare. And so the truth is our day-to-day lives are just kind of like pretty just average and boring and that kind of thing. So how is it for you, though, to see that your people, because you're an American citizen, that your people have that, your national people, like, have that, like, those sentiments about your ancestor, yeah, I'll say it like that.
It's kind of difficult because I like to be in touch with both my identities, and they're kind of split because I have to code switch a lot in between when I interact with like American friends versus my older family.
Do you ever kind of hide a little bit the fact that you're Chinese at all? Has that ever come up for you?
No.
Because I know I have met a lot of Chinese who sort of like downplay it a little bit right now in these times since, over the course of the past 7 or 8 years.
I think it would depend on who you're interacting with. Since I tend to interact with the younger generation, I
Okay.
wouldn't need to hide that.
Yeah, if there are people that look like me,
Yeah.
downplay it a little bit.
Yeah.
Man. People like me are jerks. Just kidding, not really. Listen, man. How about for you, man? So this is like you came to a country where 8 out of 10 people have an unfavorable view of you.
Well, for my experience, I seldom, I can say, never met discrimination or what in real life. But I did experience some bullying through the network. Like you can play in the video games. In case that I've ever experienced like kicking out from the game, even I was playing the clutch. I'm the top frag of the team. I got kicked because I'm Chinese.
No, so people kicked you out.
Yeah.
Once they found out you were Chinese.
Yeah.
What was your username? It wasn't a Chinese name, obviously. You can just keep it on.
Because the Steam profile would show during the game.
Yeah.
And I got my Steam profile registered when I was in China. So when I was a freshman year, my Steam profile was locate your come from China, which province, that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
they recognize me, and later, even I changed my profile, they recognize me through my accent. And while I was talking,
And so, like, so you've been kicked out of online video games.
yeah,
Just kicked out. That's it. You're just gone.
yeah.
So,
I cannot reconnect it because I'm the kicked out one.
so you then come to the idea that, well, people probably did that because I'm Chinese. You assume that.
Yeah, because I'm the top frag.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, that's kind of, well, that's a lot easy. How do you make sense of that? That you have not experienced discrimination here in person,
Yeah,
but you do online.
yeah.
How do you make sense of that? What do you tell yourself?
I don't know, just in real life, everyone is friendly here.
Hmm.
Maybe because I'm living, I've been studying in Harrisburg before. That's a pretty sweet town, middle town. And those people, they're really friendly. Same here as a college city.
Uh-huh.
So I think that depends on the education.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, strangely, the data are showing that usually education, but in this case, strangely, people with more education tend to think more about China and think more and somehow come up with reasons to dislike Chinese more, which is kind of ironic that typically doesn't happen. So for you, when you see numbers like this, when you see things like this, it doesn't really affect you because you're just living life and you don't experience it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about back in China, man? Do you guys talk about, what do you talk about with Americans? Because like we're 8 out of 10 Americans are going like, yeah, we don't like the Chinese. Is that true in China? Are you all talking about us?
Actually, I don't want to talk about this.
Oh, you don't want to say it?
Yeah. Because that depends. Everyone's different.
Okay.
From my own
Okay,
perspective,
move down just a little. I'm going to sit.
yeah, from my perspective, I've been travel to U.S. since I was a kid. So when I was 12, I went to the Yellowstone National Park, and I got a friend start from then, that time.
An
We-
American.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's American, so
Yeah.
we play together. For kids,
Yeah.
since I have that experience, I will not stand at the unfavorable.
Got you. Yeah, you wouldn't
I have
do
the
that.
I have the chance to look around the world.
Yeah, I got you. Yep. But what do you see? Don't speak on behalf of 1.4 billion people, but just speak on behalf of what you see, like in China with people you went to school with, people you meet. Is there how often do you hear an unfavorable opinion about the United States?
From my experience, I've seldom heard about that because I go to the international high school.
Yeah, yeah. It's all Chinese.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they're all most of them are planning to go abroad to go to school.
yeah.
Huh. So you don't hear that. So you don't know like what's going on down at the market at the wet market in Shanghai or something.
No, people don't talk
What's your
about
gut
that.
feeling? Yeah, they don't talk about it,
Yeah.
probably. People are busy living life.
Yeah.
Huh. How about in the Chinese American community? Do you guys
What was the question?
how often, what's your experience in terms of people talking about being Chinese here and like fitting in and like, are we accepted, not accepted? Do people talk about that?
I think it depends on the generation.
Okay.
Because the older generation would want to get more in touch with their roots because, you're far away from home country.
Yeah.
But the younger generation is a bit of a struggle because you both want to be westernized but also retain your culture. And it's kind
Yeah.
of just a mix mash.
Yeah. So it's not something that's really up on it's not a common conversation.
like once in a while, but not really like something that is coherent that everyone had the same opinion on.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Are you leaving? All right. We'll see you. Enjoy. Nice hat, by the way. Are there any other students from China who could say something about your experience? Bro, do you want to say it? Do you want to come down?
Just come down here.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man. Anybody else? Because I'm really curious. Because I know how we are talking about the Chinese, but how are the Chinese talking about us, man? Like that, you know what I mean? This is the question.
I'm also curious, like, how long you been in States?
3 years.
3 years. So you've been through around the end of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So like, how was your reception different then to now? 'Cause there was a lot of hatred towards the Asians
No,
during the.
you were here after the pandemic.
He was at the end of it.
Oh, at the
like,
end. Yeah. Here, hang on. Bro, what's your name?
Kane.
Kane?
Kane, yeah.
K-A-N-E?
Yep.
That's your American name.
Yep.
Your English name. Oh, wait, how'd you get that? How'd you pick that? Or did you pick it or somebody else?
My parents picked that for me when I'm born because it's similar to a Chinese term called 感恩,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
be grateful to everything.
In a
those-
Korean surname, Kang.
Yeah.
So, what would you add to what he said? So, where are you from in China?
Actually we live really close.
Oh, yeah?
Like it's like the same city.
Okay.
Yeah, near Shanghai. It's called Suzhou. I'm from Suzhou, and he's like part of Suzhou is from Kunshan.
Uh-huh.
And I was also in an international school, but I think we talked about that before. We're like in the international part of a normal high school in China.
Yeah.
So actually, there are students from the normal high school, like they're going to take the test to the Chinese universities,
Yeah.
and they're like normal students.
Okay.
Yeah, and well, I think most of them like they don't have the access to know American too much. Like everything they know is from the news or from the internet that Chinese
Mhm.
government says about the USA. So it's not that good, but
It's not that good, meaning it's
Yeah.
not that positive?
yeah, it's pretty normal to see see those bad things or anything bad like gunshots or something like that in Chinese internet. or
Like
Chinese
talking
news.
about all the gun
Yeah.
violence here.
Yeah, gun violence. It's
Yeah, were you
most
guys
thing.
afraid of coming here and getting shot?
No, I don't care of that.
You don't
Yeah.
care if you get shot?
No. I'm just not afraid of that because I think this place is pretty safe. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I like have a friend who, when he would come here from Afghanistan, and another friend who would come here from Iraq, and all of their friends were afraid for them to come to the U.S. because they thought they were going to get shot.
Nah, I mean I don't believe in religions, but for me, if I got shot, it's just fate. I don't care.
Okay. all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's just
So-
for me.
So
Yeah.
listen, let me ask you this. So people, if they read or hear negative things about the United States,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to repeat those. But how often?
Yeah, it
how
was-
often are people repeating that?
I mean, I think it should be the years ago before 2019,
Yeah.
before the COVID.
Yeah.
Like Chinese people are think that the USA is bad. They are making economics in China bad or something like that.
Mhm.
But after the COVID, it changes a lot. Like especially, I think months ago that Trump said they are gonna ban TikTok, and there was a Chinese app called Little Red Book
Yeah.
that was that was popular at that time in the US. I don't know if anyone used that here. And
No, people were starting to move toward it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think Chinese and Americans change both the views there, and they think. I think Chinese are like not they don't hate Americans, but many of them like Americans and they want to go to America
Yeah.
very much. But I hardly heard someone like in the USA they want to go to China or live in China,
Yeah.
like something like that. I never
Really?
heard of that. Yeah, but many Chinese they want to go to America for education, for illegal immigration or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, for jobs.
Yeah, for jobs.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So they're so it's not, but it's even here, right? When I show those numbers up there, the truth is the vast majority of people in the room don't know. Y'all don't know anything about China, man. Like they don't know anything.
I think recently there's a live about a YouTuber called Speed in China for 6 days. I don't know if anyone watched that. That's pretty good for you guys to learn China from his YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Did he say anything that jumps out for you that you want to respond to?
Yeah. For my perspective, I think what your input will affect your output. So what people hear and read will affect what they thought about or something else.
Yeah.
The only way, like, not everyone in China got the passport. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
so
well,
for-
only
for-
about half of all Americans have passports
Yes.
too.
So for those who don't have the chance to go out, take a look, see what the world outside real, they don't have the chance to.
And so therefore they're not going to be thinking about all of that stuff.
Yeah. So
Well, what do people think about Trump?
You want to talk first? Yeah.
actually, I don't have any idea about that.
I got some ideas. Yeah, there's a yeah, I'm I stay at home and watch surfing internet every day, so yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
like the question is like is what are people saying in the chat rooms about Trump?
About
that kind of
Trump?
thing? Yeah, not like the official party line.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Like I don't know, it's weird, like most Chinese young people love Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, hang on. Donald.
Yeah.
Donald. Did you hear that? Chinese young people love you, man. Love you.
yeah.
All right.
That's just from the young people. I don't think that if someone who knows like international politics exactly, they will love Trump also. So,
But that's what you're reading.
yeah,
Yeah. But
Yes.
that's what you're reading.
yeah. The Chinese young people give Trump a nickname in Chinese. You know that?
Yeah.
They give him a name called 建国. What that means is that building a country. It's called 建国.
Building a country.
Yeah, building a country. And this name is pretty popular in our parents, their generation, because that's
a common name.
yeah, that's a common name in China
okay,
at that time. Yeah, they call him because that the last time he got into he was the president of USA, and he made a lot of things like they think they make the USA crush or getting worse, and they think he's helping China, and I don't know, it's really weird. So they love Trump and love the style he talks about China. He's like a
But he's
yeah.
always saying so many negative things about China.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. They just don't listen to that.
The fact is, most of the things there is, some of them are true and some of them not. That's pretty popular, normal here too. So,
So like, do Chinese? So you're talking about just what you're reading in chat rooms and stuff, right?
yeah.
Do people understand that he just talks without thinking?
Yeah.
Do they get that he's never doing anything official? Like if you were Trump's handlers, but if I was Trump's handler, and I'm like, listen, Mr. President, when you go into this meeting, what you need to do is you need to be really careful to say it like this, and this, okay? Because it's really important how you say this. This is a message to the American people. And then Trump goes into the meeting, he's like, all right, listen, and then he goes off on some tangent. Do they understand that he just can't be controlled?
Yeah, I think they understand that. So,
Alright, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add something. People won't get mad with some lie. If it's saying some bad, but that's not true, people won't get bad on that.
They don't care about the
Yeah,
lies.
we don't care about that.
Because
It's not the truth.
Yeah, you understand what is and isn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and in a way, it's same here though, right? But obviously Americans don't care about lies either, because it's like the bigger the lie, the bigger it just doesn't seem to matter at all. What about the Chinese American community? Do y'all have it's got to be different, right? I mean, you're much more highly educated.
I don't know if I should say anything.
Yeah?
No.
No. What do you read? No, but what do you hear you're in the Chinese American community, right? Like you're in chat rooms and things like that?
No.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm more westernized in that sense.
Okay, so you're not. So even though okay, all right, so you don't have anything to say on that.
I really just get mine in terms of what Chinese Americans think through my relatives and just other Chinese people, Chinese Americans. So I wouldn't really know digitally what's going on.
Okay, let me just ask you this. Relatives, do you hear?
Yeah.
And generally speaking, do they have a favorable opinion of Trump or unfavorable? By the way, you can say unfavorable here because it doesn't matter.
No, they have a favorable opinion of him.
They have a favorable opinion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trumpers. Those of you who are Trump people, Dr. Silver, my mind is just blowing open, man. Oh my God. It's just. Oh. God. I can't even. Huh. What do they say? Can you give us one thing that they say?
I'm not even sure, but a couple days before Election Day, my grandma called and she says, "You know who you should vote for? You should vote for Trump." And I just stayed silent, and I was like, "Okay, whatever
Dude,
you
why'd
say,
you say go
Grandma."
back? Can you do me a favor? Can you ask your grandma why she said that, and then come back next class and tell us what she said? What does she see?
I don't know.
If we had enough time, I'd have you get her on the phone right now, and you could ask her.
my
But we don't have enough time.
Okay.
That's so interesting. Huh. Does anybody have a question? Are there any other Chinese students that want to just add something to any of this? It's really fascinating to me, right? Think about this. And let me tell you why it's so fascinating. Because Trump is just bashing China every single day. He's just declared as of, 8 hours, 7 hours, and 13 minutes from now, he's putting a 104% tariff on everything out of China. I mean, this is you can't even sell anything. First off, you're not gonna 104% tariff, okay? This guy is just bashing China every single day. And over in China, the young people are like, yeah, okay, we like this guy. It's
Aren't there also counter tariffs China is putting on U.S.?
yeah, they're gonna do that. Of course they are. Yeah. But we don't sell anything to China. You know what I mean? We don't. What do we sell to you all? Nothing. You know what I mean? This is part of the problem. You all are taking over the world, and we're just sitting back and eating McDonald's Big Macs, which taste like shit, according to Irvin. So, God, if you had a Big Mac when I was a kid, it was actually tasted like a good hamburger. But y'all will never know that. Are there any Chinese students who want to just add anything seriously? Anybody? All right.
I quickly want to ask to the Chinese and also the Chinese Americans, how do you guys from China view Chinese Americans? And how do you as a Chinese American view, Chinese?
Yeah, how do you view her? Do you even have an opinion on her? Sophie. What's your Chinese name, by the way?
Liu Shuqing.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think it's not their choice to come here. Most Chinese Americans, the choice is from their parents.
Yeah.
So
that was your case.
I think just Chinese Americans is just like normal foreigners or like, yeah.
Do you see her differently than anybody else who's here? Like
No.
Hispanic Americans, Mexican Americans?
No,
She's
no.
the same?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
my opinion, it's the same.
Are you like that? You see her?
Yeah, just
Another,
no
she's
more.
just another American?
Yep.
Dude, you're just another American to these guys. How
Am
is
I
that?
Chinese to you?
Wait. Ask him that in Chinese. Ask him that in Mandarin.
你觉得我像中国人吗？
Respond in Mandarin, by the way. Tell her in Mandarin she's just another American.
你只是个美国人，你还是个美国人。
我好伤心啊！
You're whitewashed.
Nah,
Do you see her as white? Do you see her as white even?
no.
You
no,
don't.
no.
So you're
Yeah.
not going to go that far.
Yeah.
Not that white.
Yeah, okay, I got
Yeah, actually, we can know the difference of Chinese American and pure Chinese. It's really yeah.
So when you look at her the way she's dressed, is it clear she's Chinese American?
Yeah, because if people speak one language too much, the face will change.
But dude, the minute I saw you,
Uh-huh.
I pointed you out to him. I said, that dude's Chinese. And the
Yeah.
reason is because this shirt is like, this is a really cool shirt, but it's not cool right now here. Like
Yeah.
this is cool. No. You're coming from Shanghai. So Seoul, Shanghai, Paris, like you're bringing really cool fashion. This will come back in style in about a year in the United States. These rugby shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will come back. No, it'll be cool here. You're going to bring it back.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, I got you, man. No,
Yeah.
people already are going to be asking you, where do I get that? Hey, can we have a round of applause here?